Have you noticed that there's kind of no point coaching until you have a client in the room? Until somebody is able to get a little bit present with you, until they're inclined to listen, there's no point in saying brilliant shit, right? Well, it's the same in getting clients. Until somebody is inclined to listen, there's no point in running a sales pitch. And there are these three things that I found consistently get people interested. And the first one is a lot of what allows us to be catalysts, to be sparks for our clients, to be something they can rub up against and have something happen, to be something solid they can bump into, and anything that is illusory will fragment and break apart, and anything that is real and solid will remain. Is they gotta know they're safe with us, right? They gotta know they're cared for. They gotta know they're loved. Because otherwise, why the fuck would you take the abuse? So make no mistake, in order to be a powerful coach, you are gonna have to get up people's noses, right? You are gonna have to be willing to, what I call in my work, poking the bear. Right? Now, the bear is the ego. The bear is the, I'm important. I don't know if you know that. Right? But you also have to recognize that if you're going to poke a bear, at times you're going to get scratched. Right? Bears don't like being poked. Now, it turns out it's just a beautiful angel in a bear suit, but they don't know that at first. So when I talk about get over yourself, I think it's worth clarifying which self you're getting over, and there's kind of two, and they're both you. So I normally like to quote spiritual philosophers. I quote Krishnamurti. I quote the enlightened Scottish welder Sydney Banks. I quote Ramana Maharshi. I'm going to quote Tyra Banks. Okay, because she's the one who coined the word that I think is perhaps. Okay, I'll give you a comparison of these two words, and you can decide which one you think sums up the human condition best. So the French Jesuit, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, said, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." Okay, that's A. Tyra Banks said, "We're all flawsome, totally flawed, but completely awesome." That's B. All right, who said it best, A or B? Both, they're both pretty good, right? Well, the problem we bump into both as coaches, but with our clients, is they think they're only one of them. They totally are aware of their flaws, or you're totally aware of your flaws, but you are not aware of your divinity, of your spark, of your aliveness, of the incredible life that you are just one light socket for. But the beautiful thing about being a light socket is people can plug in and recharge and get back to full strength when they're with you. Right? Other people think, I am a divine floaty being of light, and I have no problems. So I don't know how you, little client down there, are ever going to reach my heights, but if you try hard enough and pay enough, maybe one day. Right? They're just two different kinds of bullshit. Right? You're flawsome. You are a spiritual being, and you are having a human experience. And you ignore either of those facts at your peril. And you'll kind of know for yourself where you lean, you know, what you put out, whether you try to put out, oh yeah, no, I'm a mess, I'm a mess, I'm a mess, when deep down you know that there's something more than that in there. Or if you try to put out, I am perfect, I am divine, I'm in love, blah, 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 when you just had a freaking fight with your cat, right? That's cool, like that, don't get over that, that's you, all of it. But getting over the idea that we're supposed to just be one, that's what's worth getting over. Because all the pressure's off then. You're not forced anymore to, I can't coach them because they might see that I've got spinach in my teeth. Right? Well, when will you coach them? I was going to floss, but I can't floss until I've got six-pack abs. So 7 months? Right? You can coach really, really, really famous rich people with spinach in your teeth. I've done it. Do you know what happened? He said, "You got spinach in your teeth." And I went, "Oh, yeah." Anyways. Right. So, how to begin? All right, let's begin by talking about why I'm a huge fan of reality and not such a big fan of beliefs. Think about it. No, keep going. Okay. So one of the things that we do is we try to convince ourselves that our ideas are right, even in the face of reality. We try to hang on to our idea, even when everything in the world is telling us, that's not necessarily how it is. So you got the two pilots, right? One of them hopefully knows that if there's a goat, they're probably flying too low and there's a mountain there, right? But the other one believes in himself and goes, "Hey, what's a mountain goat doing way up here in a cloud bank? Anyways," right? We get caught up in our ideas. Probably the worst one I ever did. Anyone remember a program called Potatoes, Not Prozac? So it was big in the 90s, and I was a depressed, suicidal kid, and I would try anything to get past it. And I came across this program that they said works better than drugs or medication or therapy. Potatoes, not Prozac, because there's apparently some chemical in potatoes that's supposed to be good for your thing. And so I was like, I'm going to do this. I am disciplined. I will commit to this for 6 months. And every night I remember having like half a boiled potato, and there was all this stuff around it. And I was disciplined about potatoes, not Prozac. And about 6 weeks in, my wife said to me, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, I've never seen you this low." And I said, "No, I'm fine. I'm doing potatoes, not Prozac." And it took me another couple weeks to realize she was right. I was freaking miserable, but I was so convinced that the wisdom of the book must know more than me. So I was living in an idea, in a concept, and paying no attention to reality. Reality is your friend because you're made for reality. We are made in a way that we can eat whatever is on our plate right now. We might not like it, but we can eat it. But I promise you, no matter how awesome you get, you're never going to be able to eat what was on your plate yesterday. And you're never going to be able to eat what you think, are excited about, or worried that will be on your plate tomorrow. But you can always eat what's on your plate right now. We're made for that. And so we run away from the moment, again, at our own peril. We run away from what's happening now. And we either escape into the past or try to escape into an imaginary future, when all our power is right here. Our power to think, our power to create, our power to respond. The reason that model show up and respond to what shows up is so powerful is because it's real. When you show up, you're really here. Now, this is a weird question, but some of you are going to get it. How many of you are here right now? Okay. How many of you aren't? Right? There's a few. There's always a few. We know the difference between when we really show up. But similarly, responding to what shows up is completely different to responding what I think my client's problem is according to my analysis that I made ahead of time. Show up, respond to what shows up. It is that simple, but we don't trust it. We get distracted. We get caught up. We get concerned. One of the metaphors that I use And I think it's in the book, The Space Within, but it might be in one of the other ones. But I talk about, imagine, right, you're all coaches. Imagine that Bill Gates comes to you for business coaching. Right? Now, if you're not one of the business coaches, you might, refer him. But let's just say that you decide you're going to work with him. And he's just kind of really confused, and he's asking you for, like, do you have any good strategies for growing a company? And do you have any good, like, innovation strategies? And you're sitting there going, I mean, I do. I've learned all this stuff, but doesn't he know he's Bill Gates? And then it dawns on you that in the moment he doesn't. In the moment he's caught up, right? You ever get caught up? When you're caught up, you can be anybody and not very helpful, right? Not very capable. So what do? Right? It's a question for yourself. Do you go, okay, well, here's the 7 strategies I learned to do this, and here's the 15 tactics for this? Or do you spend every minute you have with him helping him wake up to the fact that he's Bill Gates? Because you know that once he does, he's got it from there. Well, what I want to suggest is that every human being you spend time with is Bill Gates, is Mother Teresa, is Nelson Mandela, is the most extraordinary incarnation of the divine. And they're fucked up sometimes, right? No big deal. Let me guess, do I press, oh. Thank you. Do I press the green button to move forward? Is that what happens here? All right, so this next slide, this is pretty much how every coaching session I've ever done looks. Thank you. They told me I wouldn't have time to do a demo, but I thought I'd just put that up. Right? That's what happens. People come to us and they're in crisis of some sort. They're preoccupied, they're caught up, they're disconnected from their own inner knowing, their own inner wisdom, their own inner power, their own inner creativity. And we do one of two things. We either try to fill that gap with our creativity and our wisdom and our knowing, which, look, if you got 30 seconds with somebody, cool. But if you got 5 minutes, it's worth taking those 5 minutes to just kind of help them get their feet back on the ground. And they'll take it from there because they have access to the same inner wisdom, the same knowing, the same love, the same power, the same creativity as you do, as I do. Like, you are God's coaching gods, right? Now, at your worst, you're assholes coaching assholes. But, we try to spend less time at our worst, more time at our best. It works out over time, right? So, it's funny. I'm gonna say something very nice about Jason later, but I'll start here. I kind of wanted to get that yarn outfit that he posted up there because I love originality. Right? For me, originality is simple. Gaudi, the great Spanish architect, he said, if you want to be original, go to the origin, which simply means get quiet and see what comes through. That's all it is. That's all it is. So if you're wondering, do I have anything unique to say? I not only promise you have something unique to say, but you're going to say it in the next 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to tell you how. And it's pretty simple, this one. You don't need to take notes. Is there anyone in this room who has not had, at some point in your life, an insight that really helped you? Just seen something for yourself that genuinely was a game changer. It might not have changed everything, but boy, did it make a difference. Actually, let's go the other way. Raise your hands if you have. Okay, great. So what I want you to do in a moment is I want you to turn to a person near you, and I want you to just take 2 minutes each way to share what you saw for yourself that was truly helpful for you. You don't need the backstory, you don't need just what did you see for yourself that was profoundly helpful to you? And then listen while the other person shares something they saw for themselves that was profoundly helpful for them. So, 2 minutes each way. I'll do the clapping thing when we're done. Over to you. Now, I would love, and if we can have the mic runners at the ready, I'd love to hear from just 2 or 3 of you if you were surprised by what came up. So raise your hand if what came through you surprised you. And I'd just like to hear from 1 or 2 of you. Got a couple over here.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
I would like to say that what life does to you is overrated. What you do to life is extraordinary. Remember that.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yep, you got one right there.
Hey everyone, I'm Christine Zedek from Mumbai,
I love
India.
This. You're making use of the stage. Come on up.
I love this. You are amazing, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being you. And I have to say, this tiny little exercise that we did was so beautiful because we were 3 of us sharing such amazing perspectives. And I just discovered that, when we look at our lives, we're just consumed by our own bullshit, and life is magnanimous, right? The universe is so big. We're just specks. Our brains are specks, and if we can go beyond all of that and just see, we just complicate stuff, and life is beautiful. It's simple. It's magical. And it's all about perception. And we create our stories. So stop creating stupid stories and create magical stories.
Whoa! All right. One more if it's out there. Yeah. Oh, now they're all coming up.
I'm not going to miss an opportunity like this. Wow. Right. I just want to say, I didn't know what I wanted to say. I didn't know how I wanted to say it. But, yeah, I'm comfy now. But my story was what held me back, but my story is what's given me my strength. My story is going to carry me through. My story helps me to see in other people what's beautiful, what they can't see. And, yes, and I'm so there. I can't wait
Nice.
to get started even more on this amazing journey. So thank you, guys. I can't wait to meet more of you.
Thank you. All right. So I thought, how many of you would find it helpful if I shared 3 things I've seen for myself that have helped me grow a 7-figure coaching practice? Yeah? Okay. So I gotta warn you, they're not gonna sound sexy. They just work. okay? Now, the first thing that I saw, this isn't one of the three, this is like the precursor to the three, is, have you noticed that there's kind of no point coaching until you have a client in the room? Now, sometimes there is another person in the room, but they are not your client even if they've paid you, because they're up in their head and going, you can't swim, right? That until somebody is able to get a little bit present with you, until they're inclined to listen, there's no point in saying brilliant shit, right? Well, it's the same in getting clients. Until somebody is inclined to listen, there's no point in running a sales pitch. So the three things that I'm going to be sharing with you are the three things that I have just for myself consistently found incline people to listen. So, rather than having more techniques for overcoming resistance, like you only need techniques to overcome resistance if you've created resistance. And I just think that's the long way round. So I'd rather wait to sell until I've got somebody who's interested. And there are these three things that I found consistently get people interested. And the first one is goodwill. They gotta feel, even if they don't understand why, like you care. And sometimes people go, well, how do I get them to see that I care? Care. Best way I know, actually care. This is where I said I was gonna say something nice about Jason. Jason used to reach out to me regularly, and I didn't know who he was. I'd not heard of him. He was not yet Jason. He wasn't JG yet. He was just this guy in my email, Jason, who seemed nice, but I get a lot of emails. So I was, and he would ask to talk, and I just didn't respond after a while, right? I know. Flossom, remember? Right? But then one day I happened to hear him on a podcast. And I thought he was amazing. Like, I was blown away by his humor, yeah, that's kind of what hits you first, but his heart and his care. And I got over myself and reached out to him even though I felt like an asshole, right? And I think I said something clever like, hey, I feel like an asshole to write you after all the times I haven't written back, but I heard you on this podcast, and... Well, he came back. He was so gracious. We had coffee or lunch. We had a lovely time together. And I remember him saying something to me that really impacted me. Because I was wondering, I said, I kept apologizing. I do that. That's my thing. Right? And he said, hey, when I connect with somebody, I expect them to be in my life forever. So 3 years was no big deal. And I got that he meant it. And I was like, oh, I could probably learn something here. And the way it came up for me is I thought about my son, Oliver. Now, I love all my kids equally in case they're watching. But Alls was my firstborn. I just, he was the first one to just own my heart. And I started to think, if I was selling to Oliver, would I do the things that I'm doing trying to sell to my clients? And I realized some of them I would, where I was listening the way I listen to a potential client. Some of them I absolutely would, the way I get as present as I can get with a potential client. But the tactics, hey, Alls, buy 3 months and I'll give you the 4th month for free. No, like that would just feel icky. It's a technical term, but I think you guys can work it out, right? And I suddenly realized that I had unwittingly, because I'd done all the trainings as well. I've been at this for 30 plus years. Unwittingly, I was using tactics as if I didn't care first and foremost about the well-being of the person I was sitting with. And I stopped as best I could. When I got a little stuck, a little confused, I would go, well, would I say this to Oliver? So here's what I want you to do. You can do this one internally, okay? I want you to take, we can put on some of that smooth, gentle, reflective music. I want you to think about, first off, who is your Oliver? Who is somebody that you just care about so cleanly, so deeply, no agenda? Get the feel for that in your heart. This would be a great time for the music cue, guys. Right? Get that feeling going in your heart. And imagine that for whatever reason, this was your potential client. And I want you to think about how you would be with them in the process, in the game. What would you do that you normally do when you sit down to talk about coaching with a client? What would you just not do? What would fall off the agenda quickly? If you were selling to Oliver, your Oliver, how much time would you give him? How quickly would you go for the close? If they had questions or doubts, how would you be with their questions and doubts? If they asked for time to go away and think about it, would you give it? If they were worried about the money, your Oliver, would you give them a spiel about it? Or what would you do? What would you promise them would come from your coaching? Not your spiel, not your elevator speech. What could you promise them and mean it? What would you feel good about promising them? And what is it from whatever you've learned to do and try in selling that you just wouldn't even bother? It just wouldn't even come up, and if it came up, you would just go, no, not with them. Okay? Now, as the music comes down, I'm going to ask the mics to come round again. You can stay in your place for this one. But I would just like to hear from a few of you if anything came up that was like, oh yeah, that would be different. So can we get a mic anywhere in the middle there? There's great. You can stand up, but just.
Well, that was silence.
Silence.
That was silence. So the moment I closed my eyes to connect and to be aligned, I've seen JG. We have a common hero. So I imagine JG, he's my client.
Yeah.
Because super coaches also need coaches, you know. I adore his humor. So usually when you connect with a client and what I would offer without sales pitch, I probably the first thing offer, it's a silence. And I offer to just the space that he will be heard, listened to, because these two things are very important, hearing and listening.
Yeah.
I think silence is the best.
Beautiful.
This is what came.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Give her a
Thank
hand.
you.
You know, that's one of the things. I have a mentor, Mavis Karn, who says, you know, everyone just needs a good listening to. Right? We spend so much time worried about what are we going to say. Who gives a fuck? It's not about you. Get over yourself. Have we hugged enough? Can I get away with that now? Are we all right? Who's got next?
Hello. What came up for me was my cat, because his name is Oliver. So I stopped meditating. But this was...
Namaste, Oliver.
Namaste. 2 signs from the universe. I did not get to say so long to him before I packed and left from Austin for Mindvalley's program. So you spoke of a cat today on stage, fight with a cat, and Oliver. So 2 signs. So I start meditating. But Oliver's quiet presence, he's a tabby, very lovable. His quiet presence and my own connection with my clients from the heart.
Yeah.
That's what came up for me. Heart resonance. It's not about number crunching. It's not about packages. It's not about the duration. It's not about the number of sessions. It's not about the pre-session, the post-session, the intake forms. It's heart. Start to finish. It's energy, it's heart. So that's what came up.
Whoa.
Thank you. Namaste.
All right. Grab one over there.
Hello, Michael.
Hello.
So, what came up for me was I closed my eyes and I saw Michael, who is my son. And I have 3 kids, and I love dearly all of them, in case they're watching.
This is sounding oddly familiar. What?
And a tear came down.
Yeah.
And I was experiencing a feeling, a deep feeling of unconditional love and compassion.
Yeah.
And I could feel it. And that's what, when I know that I can approach or I can be present with another human being from that space of unconditional love and compassion, that's when a true connection happens.
Yeah.
And I experience this with my clients. And that's the most magical moment that one can experience, I think.
Yeah.
And beyond all of the layers of conditioning, of crap and stories, if we can connect to another human being from that space, then we're living truly in the better world.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to make a suggestion. You can just do this as an experiment for the next month or the rest of your entire life. Don't even talk to somebody about coaching until you have that feeling for them. No point. Because you'll be talking head to head, not soul to soul. That's when you have to get clever, right? Clever is largely incompatible with love. And love moves the world. Okay, second thing I've seen that total changed the way I think about selling coaching. So I'll start this with a story. One of my, how many of you have heard of Steve Chandler? Yeah. So Steve was, I hired Steve as a coach, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago originally, and he didn't quite understand why, because, he knew that I was already quite successful and well-known and did all that. And I said to him, the reason I want to hire you as my coach is because every year it feels like in order to make money, I'm pulling rabbits out of my ass. And I'd love to not have it feel that way, right? I'd love to have it feel more like, like I knew what I was doing. And he said, okay. And just to cut to the end of that, do you want to know what the insight I got was, what I learned from Steve about that? Rabbits live up my ass. It turns out that you can just show up and something always does come that's perfect because it came in connection with the other. It might not have been perfect for anyone else, but in that moment with that person, it's perfect. But that's not the story. The story is, so when Steve first wanted to make the transition to corporate coaching, working with leadership teams, he went in and made the call, got over himself and felt like shit and made the, okay. And, said, hello, hello, may I speak to blah, blah, blah. And he explained what he wanted to do, and they said, okay, well, could you send us a brochure? And he said, why? Do you want to hire me to make your brochures? And they said, no. And he said, well, so let me come in and sit down with your leadership team. And give me 2 hours with your leadership team. And at the end of that, you can tell me if this is something you want to do or not. And the session went great. It was amazing. He thought, oh, I've got this. And then they gathered together with the team, and somebody asked the question he had been dreading above all other questions. They said, so, tell us about your experience. And of course, Stephen never worked with a leadership team in his life. But what occurred to him in the moment, because he showed up and was responding to what showed up, he said, well, I'm an alcoholic. He said, I haven't had a drink for 20 years, but I am an alcoholic. He said, I have 4 kids, none of them are in prison yet. My last company, an ad agency, went bankrupt. My wife is institutionalized, and he just went. And I don't know what the looks on the faces of the team was, but I kind of imagine the monkeys, And so there's just this quiet in the room, but it's not that lovely quiet we've all just been in. It's this kind of awkward quiet. And finally, one of the guys says, can you help us? And he said, yeah. And they hired him. So the second thing, you can clap, it's all right. So the second thing is, it's not about you, can you help them? It's not about how cool you are, you're Flossom, same as them. It's about, can you help them? Well, how do you know if you can help them? Well, I believe in myself. You don't normally see mountain goats up this high. Right? No, you know because you listen. You take the time to listen. You listen beyond the presenting problem, the presenting goal. You listen, and you listen, and you listen from the quietest place you can find inside yourself, with as little on your mind, right? Because normally, I'm listening and calculating, how much will I be able to charge, and how long should the engagement last? And no, you actually shut up and listen until you can feel them in your heart. And you can sense what they really need, what will make the difference for them. And then you offer it to them. And if you've heard well, they will grab it out of your hand. Now, that doesn't mean everybody will hire you, because money's a thing, and not everybody's got the amount of it that you want. But before you even get to the money, you need to be able to make an offer they would actually love to have. Nobody wants coaching. They want whatever it is that they really want, that coaching might be a way to get closer to. So I'm going to give you an exercise, not to do here, because to do it right, you'd want at least half an hour. But this is an exercise you can take with you. Take it into a practice group. If you don't already have coaching buddies, I'm sure by the end of the time together you can find them. And here's the exercise. Sit down with one another. Ask somebody, what do you want? And listen. And listen, and listen. And don't just take the first answer or the second answer. Listen until you can feel in your heart who they are and what they're up against and what they're not seeing and what they want. And make them an offer. Now, this is just for fun, right? It's not like you're not trying to sell them. But what's the biggest offer you can make and keep? What's the biggest promise you could make and keep to them about what would be on offer? And you'll know that you've got it because they'll go, oh God, yes. Or really? Could I? Or my favorite, fuck. Right? That's how you know. It's subtle, but I'm sure you guys can pick it up. Okay? Now, when you've done that again and again and again, you will really get a feel for what people already want. That's really all there is to selling. Find out what people already want. Not what they say they want, not what you think they want. What they actually want. Check in yourself to make sure that you can help them. Because if you can't, they're not your client. But if you can, offer it to them. It's that simple. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, third thing. This is actually another Steve Chandlerism, but I quite like it. Needy is creepy. Right? In other words, it can't be about you. How often, I'm not going to ask for a real number here, but like how often have you been sitting with a potential client thinking about what it would mean for your bottom line and your life if they said yes? Anyone ever done that? Yeah, no, it would be weird if you hadn't. If you haven't, you probably have never sat down with a client, right? But it doesn't help because we can feel it. We might not know what we're feeling, but we can sense it. You can tell when somebody's selling you, when they want you to buy more than to help. But that can be tricky because you might be thinking, yeah, but I really do need the money. Yeah, but I really do need the client. Now, the best thing I've seen about that is you might need the money, but you don't need it from them. Right? So, this next clip is a clip. So I first showed this when Oliver was, I guess he would have been about 15, 16. He tried out for football, and he was super fast, American football. And he was super fast, but he was small. He was light. He underweighed a lot of the kids. So I think maybe he was so fast because he knew what would happen if they caught him. But he would get so worked up before the games that sometimes he wouldn't even be on the field at the beginning because he'd be throwing up, because he'd get so agitated. And the coaches yelling at him to, "Come on, Neil, you can do this," did not help. "You're letting your teammates down. You're letting yourself down." Did not help. So I thought about it, and I showed Oliver what I hope is going to be the next clip.
Hey, gang, come on. Look, just because we're losing doesn't mean it's all over.
Cut the crap, Morty. I mean, the Mohawks have beaten us the last 12 years. They're going to beat us again.
That's just the attitude
Turn it up.
we don't need, Phil. Sure, Mohawk has beaten us 12 years in a row. Sure, they're terrific athletes. They've got the best equipment that money can buy. Hell, every team they're sending over here has their own personal masseuse. Not masseur, masseuse. But it doesn't matter. Do you know that every Mohawk competitor has an electrocardiogram, blood and urine tests every 48 hours to see if there's any change in his physical condition? Do you know that they use the most sophisticated training methods from the Soviet Union, East and West Germany, and the newest Olympic power, Trinidad and Tobago? But it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I tell you, it just doesn't matter. 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 It doesn't. Even if we play so far over our heads that our noses bleed for a week to 10 days, even if God in heaven above comes down and points his hand at our side of the field, even if every man, woman, and child held hands together and prayed for us to win, it just wouldn't matter, because all the really good-looking girls would still go out with the guys from Mohawk because they got all the money. It just doesn't matter if we win or we lose. It just doesn't matter. 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 It just doesn't matter.
Okay. So while the rest of his team was on the sidelines, "Ooh, yeah, we're going to kill him. Yeah, let's go out there. Yeah, come on, guys, let's go out there." Oliver is quietly standing there with his helmet going, "It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter." Now, I'm not known for technique. I'm known for understanding, but I'm going to give you a technique, right? If you've got a phone, take your phone out. If you don't have a phone, mime taking your phone out. Here's one I prepared earlier. I'll be done in just 2 minutes. Okay, bye. Right? Get your phone out. Okay? Now, I want you to imagine that you're about to call a big client, right? The client that could turn everything around for you. The client who is so prestigious that it could make your coaching business. The client who has so much money that asking double your normal fee would just be nothing to them, right? Which would be good because you're not sure how you're eating next week. Okay? And I want you to look at your phone, and before you dial, say it with me. It just doesn't matter. 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 Now dial. Thank you.